Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 10 of Apple TV's Ted Lasso, entitled No Weddings and a Funeral. I thought this was a great episode. I really liked how they did a great job of balancing humor with really heavy plot shit, right? So we're dealing with Rebecca's father's funeral. We're dealing with Ted coming to grips with his own father's death. But then at the same time, we also found time to I can't say we. I didn't make the fucking show. They also found time to interject some of the funnier scenes I think we've seen on the show so far. So I'm gonna start with what I thought was the best aspect of the episode, which was I love the fact that I love how they did the, I don't want to say reveal, but like we finally get the backstory on Ted's father's death, and I love how they cross-cut that between him telling the story about his death with Rebecca telling the story of discovering her father cheating. I love how like they cut him off mid-sentence and the other person would continue it. I thought that was really well done, and it did a really good job of somehow making both stories more impactful. Like there's a good moment where Rebecca says something like, I opened the door and then it cuts back to Ted and he goes, bam, talking about, seeing his father shoot himself, like, or well, not seeing, but hearing his father shoot himself. And yeah, I thought that was a really great scene. Really emotional stuff. I feel like it kind of cheapened Rebecca's trauma a little bit by having it where you automatically are going to compare it to Ted's trauma, which is 10 times worse. So, but that's a very minor issue. Like overall, I thought that scene was incredible. Really great stuff. And I think I like that we also found out, and I think all of us as fans of the show have suspected at some point that Ted's background and his trauma is probably the reason that he's so bubbly all the time. And he says that, he has regret over not telling his father that he was a good father enough, not telling him that he loved him enough, and he feels like maybe if he had done that, he wouldn't have killed himself. And to live with that kind of guilt is incredibly heavy. But then he says something like, that's why I always want to, make sure that people never feel that way, because life is hard and they need they need help getting through it. And I thought that was so great of a scene, because I've always, I want to say wondered, but I've always been interested in if we were ever gonna find out why Ted is the way he is, because a lot of people aren't like that. And I thought it was a really great way to kind of not just give us the information that we needed on Ted's backstory, but to also provide some insight into why he is the way that he is. So all in all, that scene overall, I think did a ton of work for the show. It did a ton of work for Ted's character, for Rebecca's character, and it was really great stuff. We also found out that I feel like there's been a little time has passed, because it feels like Rebecca and Sam have kind of been doing this thing for a while. They both don't see eye to eye on whether or not they're gonna make their relationship public. And I think it was Rebecca said something like, we've been sneaking around doing this at practices, and mentioned all these things, and they let me know that some time had passed. And I know people had some trepidation regarding this relationship, but I'm kind of disappointed that they chose to kind of walk away from it at the end of the episode. And I hope it is truly like a break, kind of like, Rebecca does some soul searching and ultimately they end up back together again, because I really like them together, because I like the fact that their relationship was born out of a true and righteous place. As righteous as a dating app can be, but it allowed them to get to know each other and fall for each other first before they knew who they were. So like, you should have some sort of confidence there that this relationship can go somewhere, because it's not based on physical attraction. It's not based on sex. It's based on a true connection. And then you add that in on top of it. Whereas most of us in life, when we meet, whoever it is that we meet them first. We see them, and I think that's a good way for them to kind of like establish a bit of a stronger foundation in their relationship. And I don't like the fact that she gave it up for that reason, just kind of like, oh, it scares me, so I need to reflect on that. I feel like that was kind of a cheap reasoning. in story that is. But I think it could end up being something like, oh, we need to figure this, this work dynamic out, which they do, but because you can't go public, like you can't, like I'm surprised they didn't even mention that, to be honest. Like, they didn't say like, this whole boss player relationship, we can't go public because of that. But they didn't really mention that too much, but I feel like that's something that is going to come up. I mean, we've only got 2 episodes left, so I don't really know what's going to happen, how much time they're going to devote to that. We still got to figure out what's happening with Nate here. Like, are we going to have some sort of resolution to him being a dick? Like, and there's a couple other things that I want to kind of just throw out there before I wrap this episode up. But I also liked, like I said at the top, I like that they interjected a lot of humor into this episode, even though, you would think an episode that's primarily revolves around 2 dead fathers, you would think that this would be an episode where they might say, let's keep the laughter at a minimum. But I thought there were a lot of really good scenes here. I loved the conversation about what they were going to wear to the funeral, how Isaac's telling them like they can't wear trainers and shit like that. And they're like, I don't have time to wait outside of a store for, in line to get shoes. And Jamie's like, you don't need to do that with these shoes. Nobody wants these. And then the ongoing gag of Danny struggling with wearing the dress shoes, I thought was incredible. Like, they haven't really given Danny an opportunity to do much outside of his footballer's life, overly happy persona. So when you get him like legit pissed off about how much his feet hurt in these shoes, I thought that was a great moment for Danny's character. I thought that was fucking hilarious. And then they showed his feet at the end in Rebecca's slippers. Oh my god, that was a great gag. I really liked what they did with that. I liked the moment where Roy is eating the apple at the funeral and he said it tastes like dead people. I thought that was great. I don't know if I would do something like that. Like I feel like I fall somewhere in between Keeley and Roy. Like, Keeley's like totally like, oh, I want to provide nourishment to people in my death and all this good stuff. And Roy's like, why would I want to eat something that was born out of a rotting corpse? Like, I see both sides there. But I feel like, if you were planted in a way that you could be part of a tree, you can kind of die feeling like you can live forever. And I feel like that's interesting. Maybe not forever, but for, well beyond your time on this earth. I also love the scene where they ultimately discover that Rebecca's dating Sam, which that surprised me that even came to light in this episode. Because, like, we all know that's a big deal. And I feel like the show might not be treating it as big of a deal as it is to us, the viewer, who see not even the age difference, not even the race difference, just the sheer boss and employee issue. To have them kind of like, they pretty freely reveal, they had Rebecca freely reveal that it was Sam, and I thought that was an interesting decision to make. But that scene, that was really good. I love how she's like, is he tall? Yes. Is it Sam? How the fuck did you know that? Like, and then everybody freaking out, and you hear it from outside the room. And then the best part of it is Nora with the callback to the boss ass bitch. I thought that was an incredible callback. But that's just a hat tip to the writers from me, because like they this show has had moments this season where fans have been mildly disappointed, and that's fine. But this was a reminder of how well written this show is, and they pulled off some great stuff here. Oh, and then I loved when they as much as you could love a scene that ultimately ends in a way that you don't like, but I love how in the scene where Rebecca decides that she kind of wants to put a pause on things with Sam, she's like, yeah, I love you, you're great, but he said, I hate big butts and I cannot lie. Though, again, brilliant writing there. So before I get into my couple of thoughts, just in summation, I thought this was a great episode. I thought it was great how they did a good job of balancing a lot of really good humor with a lot of the heavy shit. I thought the scene where Ted talked with Sharon about what happened with his father was incredible. I loved how they cross-cut between his story and Rebecca's, and how they would kind of like the stories even fed off of each other. Like how they transitioned like mid-sentence to the other person's story. I thought it was an incredible moment for this show. And then I loved I already mentioned the humor. I already said that. But yeah, this was a great episode. So I'm really interested to see where we go in these last 2. We need to see what happens with the team overall on the field. on the pitch. We need to see what happens with Nate. And then what of my thoughts? I'm curious about this is now. I thought it was a kind of like a throwaway moment earlier in the season, but it came up again, and I'm wondering if this is something that they're actually gonna do, or kind of like move forward with. But Jamie professed his love for Keely, and then it was followed right up by Roy doing the same thing. Well, not professing, but saying the same thing. And I'm wondering, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but I'm wondering if they're gonna have Keely cheat on Roy with Jamie, and that, oh god, that would suck. That would suck. We all love Roy. I think at this point, Roy is probably everyone's favorite character. It's either Roy or Ted, and you know, Roy was such a dick in season 1, so it's so amazing to see how three-dimensional Roy is now at this point. But yeah, this is now the second or third time they've kind of put Jamie in this wanting to reconcile situation with Keely, and I'm worried about that. I was worried about it in the moment, but I'm worried about that now. I'm wondering what's going to happen with that in these final 2 episodes, and I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it's not bad, but apparently they have said that this season is kind of like an Empire Strikes Back kind of deal, and Empire Strikes Back left with a lot of ended with some cliffhangers and ones that were not so great. So yeah, pretty worried about that. And then just real quick, there's a moment where everyone's talking about this is right after Rebecca found out that her father had passed, and the whole team is not the whole team, but the coaches are all in their room, the Diamond Dogs, and they're talking about death, and Beard mentions something that I've heard before, that your body is 21.3 grams lighter when you die, and some people say that's the soul. I find that interesting, just because I feel like, isn't it? I don't know how much it would weigh, but I feel like, isn't it obvious that like throughout our lives there is constantly air in our lungs recirculating, but when you die, that air expires and does not come back in. So I feel like that's probably accounting for the 21.3 grams, but I don't know how much, if air in your lungs weighs 21.3 grams. I don't know, but just a thought. So let me know what you think in the comments on Jamie, Keely, and Roy and their love triangle. Let me know what you think about what's going to happen with Nate. Let me know what you thought about the cross-cutting with Rebecca's scene and Ted's scene with their telling their stories about their fathers. And let me know what you thought about the episode. I thought it was a great one of the better ones this year. I still think the Man City episode 8, is the best one this season, and probably the best one of the series so far. But this one was really solid, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we finish this one out. So 2 more left. I'll see you guys next week. Till then, peace.